So in a couple of weeks' time, we've got the second edition of RADL GRVL coming up here in Australia, and we put the call out, couldn't get Valteri and his people to come on, but we've got the next best option, 2024 RADL GRVL champion, Tasman Nankervis. Welcome back to the pod.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be amongst the names of Valtteri.
Definitely bring some star power to this one. So thanks for coming on, and we're looking forward to reviewing last year's event and looking forward to 2025. Before we get to that, it's been a while since we had you on the podcast. I think you're our first repeat guest, so that's another accolade for you. Last time we caught up was June of 2023, I think, and you just completed Unbound. So just wanted to see how you've been going since then. How'd the rest of your time in the US go, and what have you been up to since you got back to Australia?
Oh, I guess it's almost a year and a half now, but the US season, it probably got better from when I talked to you over there. I gained momentum towards the end there. And then last year, I got accepted back in the Grand Prix, but didn't take up the offer. I couldn't get, support to do so, and kind of shifted, this last year in 2024 to working more. We bought a house and just making a work life and riding balance. I'm trying to manage things to the best of their ability in all dynamics, and still raced a heap last year, mainly domestically, but then also managed to go overseas for a month last year and have my first holiday without a bike. And actually, I think last year I had good 2 months off the bike altogether, which is the first time ever I've had that kind of break. And it's kind of good to do some other things. Did a lot of swimming and running as well, but then still a lot of racing and more of that to come this year. And got quite a busy first half of the year coming up.
Excellent. You put in a really good showing at the last event over there at Big Sugar Gravel. You and Trekkie both did. Was it, I guess that was sort of probably the best result you had over there in the Lifetime Grand Prix. And as you said, you were selected to go back. Was that hard to have to turn that down? And do you feel like you had a bit of unfinished business perhaps?
Certainly. It was hard. I got my two best results in the last two races. I got two top tens in the last few rounds. And yeah, it was difficult. And probably all this was a bit too late as well, even sponsorship wise. I had some talks with sponsors right at the end of the Grand Prix after that last race. And when I got home, I was still talking. I was doing a few late night Skypes and things. And one by one, each one of them fell through. And in the end, I was left with my domestic level support. And it was coming up to the end of the year. And you need quite a big budget to be going back to the Grand Prix. And to do it at a high level as well, you need to be doing it properly. And I did it bare minimum, sleeping in the back of a truck, even camping the whole time, just being in the elements. It was a lot of fun, but definitely hard work maintaining the professionalism as well. And I knew like if I was going back, I wanted to have even higher level of professionalism, having somewhere to stay and having the financial means to do so. And it was really tricky to say no, and everyone else was quite excited for me and things like that. But it's a big undertaking. It's 6 months overseas again, and actually I pretty much I was pretty good communication with Lifetime about it, and I basically told them I think the week of RADL GRVL last year that I wasn't going. And it's quite hard then while I was at RADL GRVL, everyone was talking about Grand Prix and I was about to tell them I wasn't going.
I hadn't really thought about that before. I know sort of Trekkie and you last time were telling us how hard it is for internationals, but I guess from a sponsor's perspective as well, they've got to probably foot out a lot more cash to get an international guy like an Australian over there, as opposed to just putting their money behind a US guy who's got their own place to stay. They don't have to worry about all those other expenses. So it's a shame, but hopefully you can get back there at some stage. Have you got any ambitions to get back over there and have another crack?
Well, I think we'll just pick off the odd race. But otherwise, kind of happy doing what I'm doing for the moment domestically, and kind of seeing where my interest takes me for the moment. See what fun rides or races I can do as well. Not necessarily, I guess, in that whole performance side, which is pretty wild. Bit of a different shift, I guess.
So you came back to Australia in pretty good form, obviously, after doing that. What did you learn from that experience that you sort of brought back and are applying to your racing now?
Anytime you can dedicate 6 months with no work to riding, you progress a lot. And I'd done so much volume over there. I think you get your Strava stats at the end of the year. I did 30% more in 2023 than this volume in 2024. And it still wasn't a small year in 2024. It was just I did that much volume in 2023. And just practicing the racing, the using hydration packs, knowing I think racing's changed a lot in terms of feed zone etiquette and things like that, and tactics wise. So hone in on that You are racing for sheep stations out there, and just having racing in really aggressive, high caliber fields as well. You're not just racing in Australia, you get stuck racing the same guys quite often. In America, the field's deeper, so you have to rely on your tactics and racecraft a bit more. So I think when you come back home and you have to apply your racecraft to smaller fields, it's a lot easier to do so. That's probably the biggest advantage, I reckon, is just knowing how to ride a race.
Cool. It was great. I caught up with you at the Beechworth Granite Classic earlier this year. Obviously, not a big event on your radar in terms of racing, but a great sort of celebration of gravel culture. You just for a bit of quick tech chat before we jump into Rattle Gravel. You had a new bike there, the Merida Silex, and sort of coming off the BMC. How have you found having those two bikes available? What's your sort of go-to for gravel racing, or is it a bit of a course by course selection now?
By course, I've still got both bikes. I'm sponsored by Advanced Trader, who distribute both brands. So the Merida Silex is definitely better for more rugged terrain and more comfortable. You can run, 50 mil tires. It's got a touring bike mounts, where the BMC, you can just squeeze 45s in, but they probably don't recommend it, but I can just fit them in. And it's got that more road bike geometry. I'm relying on the BMC more often for what I'm doing, the race side of things, but the Silex is there for, if I was going to do an adventure bike tour, I'd take the Silex, and then maybe for pure racing, I'll stay on the BMC. But it's good to have the option, I guess.
Is it you fitting 50s in your Silex? I think the official line is 45s on there, but if that's coming from you, we'll say you can fit a 50 in comfortably. That's good.
Depends on a lot of things, though. Depends on your wheel size and things as well, your internal rim widths and stuff. But
is that something you've sort of picked up? I know that trend has sort of happened probably since you've been back in Australia. This trend towards larger and larger tyres. Are you jumping on board that bandwagon, or what do you see as sort of the ideal tyre width?
Oh, yes and no. Like, I mainly still run 40s, but as soon as you go faster, when you're training around home, you're like, oh, the 40s are fine. But then when you go racing, you're going 10k an hour faster everywhere. All of a sudden, hitting the holes better and every rock's, taking more impact. So then you can argue for the bigger tyre. I've been playing around mainly now. I've been running 45 front and 40 rear. Having the 45 in the front, it's just a bit more supple on the upper body and just actually it's a bit more comfortable, if anything. I'd probably say 45 is going to be the new norm rather than the 40s. But still, there's some races back here in Oz Gravelista, I still put 40s on because it was such a smooth course. And for Rattle Gravel, I'd probably still stick with 40s as well, as long as it's the same as what it was, roughly.
So you mentioned Rattle there, and we'll get to that now. So you've come back to Australia, and I guess as you said, one of the first events you had back here was the brand new Rattle Gravel in January of 2024. So this is a really interesting event, I think, and it seems a bit unique at the moment in terms of the Australian gravel scene. For those of you who don't know, so the background to this event, it's run by the same group that started Steamboat Gravel over in the US. In Steamboat Springs. So that event started in 2019 and sort of grown really rapidly to become one of America's biggest mass participation gravel races. So it's got a really good reputation over there. And then in 2022, the guys behind it partnered with Tiffany Cromwell and Valteri Bottas, the F1 driver, and they put on an event in Finland, in Valtteri's homeland. And then in 2024, obviously brought the brand to Australia with Rattle Gravel. So yeah, to sort of recap last year's event, what were your sort of expectations going in, and what had you sort of heard about this event before you rocked up?
I guess it was new for everyone. Like you said, brand new race, and it's got this bit piggybacking off the Tour Down Under and all that. And I hadn't even been to the Tour Down Under before. Oh, sorry, I did race it one year when it was the COVID Tour Down Under, but I hadn't been to the World Tour Down Under. Just immediately quite blown away by how well it's slotted in with TDU. You've already got all these people at Tour Down Under, all these bike riders. So why not have a race for the masses? And to have it at McLaren Vale and the wineries, got the Valteri Bottas effect. That was definitely a thing. I even had some friends that kind of messaged me after the race saying, oh, like they don't follow cycling whatsoever, but they knew Valtteri Bottas was in Adelaide hosting a race and then they knew I was there and I won it, and that got them looking at cycling, which is pretty wild. And then the industry as well at the Tour and Under, there's a big expo right in town. And from myself point of view, having all my sponsors in one big expo and to see for them to be able to see me race and myself to be able to go talk to them is really good, and that's what they do in America well. Is they have the masses looking at all the brands at an expo and host a race, and they do the shakeout rides, and they have the elite riders riding with the weekend warriors before the race starts, and yeah, it's a community feel kind of race, and they do a good job.
I was gonna, yeah, I was trying to sort of work that out. Is this event, did it feel more like an American gravel event than any other one that you've done here in Australia? Did it have that sort of vibe to it coming out of that sort of culture, or was it much or more or less this sort of the same deal?
No, it had a different atmosphere. I think this because it was surrounded by TDU and they had all industry there. Yeah, I think that's what maybe made it slightly different. And to get how many riders they did, I can't remember how many it was now. I'm going to estimate, say, 500 for a first year event. Pretty impressive. And yeah,
Yeah, I think they sold
there
out.
was
I
something
think in
in
the
that.
end they had to cap the entrance. So yeah, it was definitely a big
Yeah.
success. And as you say, it definitely seemed to cut through to the mainstream more than any other part of our little niche culture I think I've ever seen.
Mm.
Like it, yeah, you said, people who went into
Yeah.
gravel or went into cycling were suddenly aware of gravel and
Yeah.
what gravel racing was. So yeah, I think we can be pretty sure that was a Valtteri effect. But I think, as you say, partnering with PDU, yeah, into the mainstream. And I think still in Australia, like gravel, even amongst cyclists, still is probably a bit of a niche. So maybe just, yeah, bringing in some of the sort of more mainstream road cyclists, bringing them closer, showing them what gravel's about, probably was part of that as well.
Brody Chapman won the women's, and there was a number of the because the women's fields it didn't clash for them. For some of the World Tour ladies did race Rattle. I remember now. Channel 10 play of the day was Valtteri Bottas on our national TV in his budgies going swimming at the beach. Yeah, how's that for getting bike riding on TV? Yeah,
If that's what it takes, we'll take it.
yeah. Mm.
GCN were there too, weren't they? You managed to sneak into their videos at all?
No, I rode with sure it's Simon the day after the race. Actually rode out with him to Wollonga through the hill climb challenge. One of the guys, and he's yeah, really good to talk to. He's the tech specialist. Didn't talk to him much at the race, but we debriefed it afterwards. They have even that exposure. And they did a video on RADL GRVL as well, so everyone was there.
Let's talk about the race itself. How did it sort of play out on the day? You obviously were on a good one.
Yeah, I did road nationals 2 weeks beforehand, and I was kind of underdone going to road nationals, and I knew, and road nationals for me is an hour and a half away in Ballarat on the Bendigo.
Not anymore.
I went, no, not anymore. No. I was very lucky for a long time there, but I used that as a hit out, and I come out of that really well, and had 2 weeks to rattle. And the style of the course for Rattle Gravel, a lot of really steep, pinchy climbs, nothing greater than 10 minutes, kind of between 5 and 10 minutes. All the climbs and quite, even out of the gate, I think it's a 7.5 minute climb at 16 odd percent. That style of climb, it suits me well, coming from the mountain bike background, to be able to maintain traction, but it's also kind of riding the tip of your saddle and it's just above threshold. It's in that VO2 range. Um, Anyone that's raced cross country mountain biking knows how to suffer in that kind of VO2 range, and I think that's always been a bit of a strength of mine, the kind of upper threshold, and it's basically those kind of climbs on repeat with quick downhill descents. So kind of like a shark tooth profile, I guess. Lots of steep, short, repeated climbs. Yeah, it's one of those races where tactically, it's very hard to get a race tactically right, and for me, it felt like everything just fell into my hands that day. I'd studied the course. I'd actually pre-ridden kind of first 30K and the last 20K. And I think that gave me a huge advantage because I worked out kind of to the finish that the others hadn't, because no one fought me for the
Yeah,
last single
yeah.
track,
All
and
right.
I got
Okay.
that. There's a few things there, and that really played a good hand for me. Um, Even coming to the sprint finish, I knew from the end of the single track there's a K to the finish line, and end of the single track there's a slight rise, and it's all descent, like gradual descent to the finish line. It was basically flat to gradual, and you can't see the finish line until you go over that crest. But once you hit the crest, then you don't want to be on the front anymore and leading it out. And I kind of forced Trekker to lead me out, and he was probably thinking, like, yeah, what's he doing? He's sitting on me already. But then I knew as soon as you go over that crest, there's the finish line. So I think I had the upper hand. I think I knew that I'd seen the end of the course, whereas Adam and Trekkie hadn't, because there was also no flight into the single track kind of at the end.
Yeah, there you go.
Knew where to draft as well.
The
So
real professionals get out early and do their recon.
yeah, you don't be crafty, someone else will be crafty to you. I've all learned that the hard way. Definitely, that's something I've definitely improved over the years. Is you do have to have that level of ruthlessness, or someone's going to do it back to you. So
There you go. Was it good to would have had a few sprints with Trekkie over the years? What's your sort of
yeah,
head-to-head score
it's
going?
not good. Usually, it's going to be about a 3 hour long race, and that's for me is probably 2.5 to sub 4 is good. I reckon when you go over 4, it's when guys like Trekkie or Lockie Morton really go into their own. Head to head usually has had me in sprints in the past, and definitely lost a fair few races because of that. But it definitely felt good to come off his wheel and see that he wasn't going any further forward, particularly for that race.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
a
particularly as well because I knew I wasn't going back to America. I just played that week as well, so it's I wasn't racing for anything, just for myself, and
that
one
was
of
a
the days where it all worked out.
yeah. No, it was a great finish and well covered as well. I think you probably got more eyeballs on your racing than you probably ever have before coming across that finish line.
My family were watching like the live Instagram feeds. My sister said she's going to have a heart attack watching that finish.
Just a shout out too to Adam. I think he got hit by a car recently while he was training, so he's on the road to recovery. So yeah, best of luck to him. Have you heard anything from him recently?
Not particular. I sent a message when it happened, but yeah, it's not good when anyone happens to anyone. And I think he's sorry he's back on the bike now, so hopefully he can get back to normality soon.
All right, so that wraps up sort of looking back to last year. Let's look a little bit forward facing now. Before we do, I just want to have a little moment to think about how this event sort of fits into the whole TDU week. So there was a bit of discussion about this last year because the very popular challenge to a Gran Fondo that used to run in collaboration with the TDU was cancelled last year. At the time, Escape Collective journo Matt Deneve did some really great reporting about this, looking at reasons why, and it obviously generally comes down to cost for these things. And this is sort of a trend we're seeing across Fondo events across the country. A lot of them are getting cancelled and it's just becoming too difficult to run road Fondos. So, at the same time as that event was cancelled, RADL GRVL's obviously popped up almost in its place. And a lot of people saw that as sort of the replacement event for what was once a very popular road Fondo. At the same time, that Fondo used to get thousands of applicants, and as you say, like RADL GRVL was a big success, but we're still only talking sort of 250 to 500 riders. Perhaps a little bit more race focus, a little bit more elite rider focus, maybe in that first year, and obviously not run out of the centre of Adelaide. So people have to, one, be interested in gravel, probably have a gravel bike, get down to McLaren Vale to get involved. So I know there was a few people, and Jesse and Chris over at the Nero show, they sort of raised some concerns that maybe running a gravel event in place of a road Fondo was a little bit of almost a less inclusive way to provide something for people to do during TDU week. And that sort of really challenged my own personal perceptions about gravel, because from my perspective, I've always felt that gravel riding is a more inclusive sort of environment than road riding. It's a bit less clicky, anyone can show up, run what you've got, that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe sort of their take on it really did challenge me, because I think they raised some really good points about that. And as well as, gravel, a lot of road riders maybe don't feel comfortable riding gravel if it's a bit more technical, particularly those descents that you've spoken about. So maybe it's just a sign of where gravel is in this country at the moment. But, over in the States, we certainly see they have huge levels of participation in their gravel events. And maybe we're just not quite there yet here in Australia. But the other thing I thought maybe too, like coming from Melbourne, the gravel's much more accessible here. So people who are road riders probably have dabbled their toes into gravel a bit and are more likely to sign up, as perhaps people in Sydney where it's a bit harder to access good gravel roads. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of get your take. Did you think that running a gravel event sort of in place of a Gran Fondo is an inclusive way to go? Do you feel like these events are built for the everyday rider, or do you think we've still got a way to go there?
I'd say it can be for sure, but then the masses in Australia are still on road bikes. More people are still road cycling than gravel cycling, even if gravel cycling is getting bigger and bigger. So maybe it's just not there yet. You're probably never gonna replace the Gran Fondo numbers straight away if you host a gravel race the year after. And even they have a family ride this year for the Rattle Gravel, but they could just have a dirt Gran Fondo as well, and that's
Yeah.
probably the more simplest solution.
Last year they
Um,
had obviously the elite event. I think it was 120 k's, 115, and they had a 75-kilometer option. But there was still heaps of climbing in that shorter option. And this year they've dropped that 75 option. They've brought in a 35-kilometer sort of say more family sort of gravel beginner friendly route with less climbing, less descending. So yeah, maybe there's been potentially a bit of reflection there and trying to get more people, without a background in gravel riding to come down and check it out. Do you think, do you see that mass participation side growing into the future? Do you think, the market there?
every year it gets bigger and bigger. Even yeah, the road rides majority, I'd say, are gradually merging over where I am here locally. But yeah, it'll just take time, I guess. You probably don't want something to click overnight even as well, because you'll probably kill another side of the sport. Um,
On that note, it's
I
great to
guess a
see that
tricky one.
the Road Fondo's back
I,
for
it
2025.
is back
So
this
yeah,
year.
and people have got the choice about what they want to get involved with. So yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to
Uh,
watch that over the next few years, how those participation levels play out.
yeah. We're so limited by, I think, just, yeah, the cost of closing roads until, say the permits and police force are free. Like, yeah, don't charge cheaper, then probably going to be a battle just continuing going forward. But in saying that, the gravel races also have to be, just because you're on a dirt road doesn't mean we don't need safety in our gravel races as well. I think I've done a lot of events where oh, it's a gravel race, we're on a dirt road, it's pretty quiet. And then you're still going 40, 50k an hour, and then you're still getting cars that aren't expecting anyone on the roads, just like we aren't expecting them. And on dirt roads, they're narrower, so everyone's almost on the wrong side, no matter where you are. Yeah, it needs to be a safety component to the gravel races. I think the first few gravel races I was doing didn't have lead cars or anything. We're just navigating ourselves, no lead motorbike or car. But I think more and more are doing so. And at least it gives the heads up for the cars. Because we're the first ones they see, the ones the guys at the front. At least see a lead car before they see us. It gives them warning. Yeah, that's
It's
definitely improving.
Yeah, definitely an important thing. Like, car can probably be more dangerous if there's only one in the whole race when you're not expecting it.
Yeah. At a major rattle gravel early in the race, we had one car. The bunch went on the inside of the road of the car because we
Gosh.
were close to the apex and that car was on the apex. And then they put a car, and then, yeah, that lead car, I think it had gone, I think we'd overtaken it or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's always
geez.
room for improvement. And that was definitely a scary moment. I know for this year they've changed some parts of the course, and potentially it's actually that section's actually been changed, so might be a good thing.
Yeah, well, let's have a look now at the 2025 event. So, we're talking in early January. This, as we've said a few times, kicks off with the Tour Down Under week. So, we're sort of the Rattle Gravel schedule of events runs from Wednesday the 22nd through to Sunday the 26th of January. So, yeah, they're really sort of building it out as a week long or a 5 day sort of schedule of various events. So, that starts with the Gravel Expo at the TDU Village in Adelaide. So yeah, if you're down at the event, head out to check that out. There'll obviously be a lot of sponsors down there, brands, and that's where all the sort of rider registration will happen as well. And then over that sort of 2 day period, Wednesday and Thursday, there's a number of shakeout rides. So Paz Normal Studios are running one. And the now world famous quad lock budgie beach ride is on Thursday morning. So if you're feeling brave, chuck your budgie smugglers on and head down to Henley Beach with quad lock. And then the pro panel is on Thursday afternoon. Are you going to be involved in that, Taz?
I'm not sure actually.
Oh, you haven't been invited.
Wait
There
and
you go.
see.
Put it in your diary. 4 o'clock on
Yeah.
Thursday, the 23rd. I'm pretty sure that's at the TDU Village as well. And a rider briefing on Thursday afternoon before event day on Friday. So yeah, that's race day. So they have shuttles that can get you from Adelaide down to McLaren Vale for the start. You can book them online through tickets. And yeah, there are a couple of options. So as we've been talking about, the 112 kilometre blue course, there's a separate elite start and then a sort of a separate elite start for the men and the women's, which is great to see. I know that's been a big talking point in women's gravel racing in particular, about having sort of separate starts so they can race fairly against each other. So that's great to see. A 5 minute split between the elite men's and women's races there. And then the amateurs will go at 8:05. And then the family-friendly Green Vineyard Tour course, which is, as I said, 34 Ks with 320 metres of climbing and 50% gravel. That'll head off at about 8:45. It'll be a big day of racing. And then there's a bit of an after-party, canyoner throwing, which is pretty cool to see in downtown Adelaide that night. So get down there and celebrate your race. Do you think you'll be down at that one, Tez?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
It is a good week in general. Yeah, always.
And then, you can sort of piggyback onto the TDU over the weekend, and they've got a couple of sort of watch parties, sausage sizzles, a few more sort of wind down social rides to get involved with. So plenty to do if you're heading over to TDU, and you can sort of scratch your gravel itch as well. Talking about the race, I think we've sort of covered a bit. Obviously, a lot of climbing. I think maybe a bit less this year. I think last year they were talking over 2,000 metres. They're saying 1,500 metres of climbing this year. So pretty similar course, but I think some minor changes. 80% gravel. Obviously, one that suits you. Who are you sort of looking at as your main rivals for this race? Who's in form and who's going to...
Oh, who's in form's the harder one, because no one's really probably raced each other for a little while. I don't know who's going to Road Nationals. That's still same 2 weeks out. That's what it was last year. I'm not doing it myself, but anyone doing Road Nats is going to get a good hit out kind of 2 weeks beforehand. There were some of the same old. Trekkie Lockie Morton's here.
Yeah, I saw that. He's down to ride, which is pretty cool. Unbound champion, obviously, from last year.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a good draw card for the race. I'm not sure. Who else we got? You know any more, Tristan?
Trekkie's on there. Mark O'Brien's put his name down.
Oh, yeah, Marco.
Jack Aitken. Yeah. So the usual suspects, but it'd be good to see. And then obviously on the women's side, they've got a pretty packed field as well. Tiffany Cromwell obviously as part owner, but Courtney Sherwood will be there. Peter Mullins, Ella Blore, Nicole Frayne, Cassia Boglio are all down to ride. So, yeah, pretty strong field on the women's side there. Who's your pick out of that bunch?
Ooh, I don't know. It's probably hard to go past one of the World Tour girls, but then the gravel suits. I'll go with local. Go with Courtney.
Very good.
Why not?
All right, well, it sounds like you got a bit of research on your rivals to do before we get to Adelaide.
That question. Sometimes better off not knowing.
Yeah, just rock up and...
I shouldn't know for the podcast, but I for myself, it doesn't really change anything for me. Just change whether you're getting belted, you can't control your competitors, I guess.
Yeah, look after yourself. So how is the training going?
Good. It's been rushed, to be quite frank. I had a holiday in November, had a good 3 weeks off the bike, and then, as you do when you come home from overseas travels, I got sick, and then that just lingered for another kind of 2 weeks. So I ended up having 5 weeks off the bike. This is the longest I've ever had off the bike.
You get more than 5 weeks off the bike, I can assure you.
Yeah. There's no complaining there. It's just, it's not a bad thing to go on a holiday. But, and now I'm week 6 back on, and the first 4 weeks have sucked. And now the last week or so, I just feel like it's just starting to click now. And I went out and did some VO2 efforts for the first time today, and they didn't suck. They've actually felt all right, and the numbers are getting there. So I've got 2 more weeks, got 2.5 weeks to keep fine tuning. I think hopefully I'll not going to try and peak until the very day.
There you go. Is this one of your main events to focus on coming into the next few months, or what else have you got planned after this?
It's the first focus of the season, really. And it's hard. You can't peak for everything, so I just want to get myself as good as possible for RADL Gravel and then keep moving on. The Otway Odyssey's on in February, and there's Malbec Nationals in March, which I'm pretty keen to have a go at. XCO again, they're from Mount Buller. And then Gravel Nationals April, and then May is busy as you got the Dirty Devil's Cardigan is a UCI Gravel World Series race. Start of May, and then a week later is the Sevens. So it's kind of that block of now till May is actually really quite busy. So I have my first block of the year, a little rest, and then go for August again. August, September is more racing, October.
Very good. Well, best of luck for it all, and can't wait to see how you get on over in Adelaide. Thanks for coming on and helping us preview this big event.
My pleasure. Hopefully, everyone knows what to expect.